this week's Hashtag Female Boss interviews. This week we're going to be talking about social media and marketing and everything that comes along with that. I've got three fantastic guests here with me today, and I'll let them introduce themselves and a bit about their background.
No problem. So I'm Georgina. Currently I work at Young Enterprise, but as well as that I have my own business called Southside Illustrated, so we make cards and things like that.
Yes, my name's Josh Graham.
Hi, I'm Lucy and I am the Communications and Events Manager at Young Enterprise Scotland. But I run my own freelance social media marketing agency as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. So as you can see, we've got quite a wide range of skills here. You're all in slightly different areas, even though it's all within social media and marketing. So to start off with, what led you into your current role or sort of down this path?
Well, I can start. So when I went to uni, I did graphic design and illustration, and near the end, we had to do a big push of marketing ourselves. But I think because it's your own art, I think it's easier when it's somebody else's stuff that you're trying to push. So I remember not being very confident about it whatsoever. And then a couple of years later, I was a marketing assistant after I did a short business course at college. So I learned loads being a marketing assistant for 2 companies. And then that's sort of then what brought me here. So
For myself, it was definitely something sort of found along the way type of thing. I started, my undergrad course was in journalism, I did with Lucy. So it started off as that, and I enjoyed aspects of it, but I quickly lost interest in it. It was not the right way I thought the course was going to go, but I did still do some sort of journalism stuff, and then I was working in retail for a long time, and then it got to lockdown, and I was like, right, I want to do something different, and I enjoyed the finding the story aspect of journalism, and that's what I most enjoyed about marketing and PR and stuff. So I just literally, I think I was 6 months into just sitting in my house doing nothing because I couldn't work in retail, and then I googled social media marketing course, and there was one at Stirling that was a master's, and I was like, okay, sounds good. And then within half an hour I was like, okay, I'm doing that, and then that was it. And so just went from there, really.
Amazing.
Yeah. What about you, Lucy?
Similar to Josh, did the journalism course and really enjoyed the kind of story side of it, but I don't have the right personality for hard-hitting journalism. So I kind of fell into it. When I started at Enterprise Scotland, the kind of social media was the side part of my role, and I really, really enjoyed it, and just kind of managed to claw away at making them take more notice of it, and managed to kind of create the role that I'm in now.
Amazing. Did any of you sort of anticipate being where you are now? Was that ever something you saw happening?
I don't think so. No. When I started, I was delivering programs in schools, and I was kind of I enjoy this is what I'll do. But the more I learned about the kind of digital marketing side of things, the more I was actually, no, this is what I want to do. So it's definitely not an intentional thing.
Yeah.
I'm quite glad that it's worked out.
For myself, yeah, it was kind of the same. When I left school in 2012, there really wasn't the same level of social media marketing. The company I worked for didn't even exist for another 4 years after that. Yeah. So it was really not. It's developed so much since then. So it was hard to even conceive of something like that before. But I think as time went on, and I just enjoyed social media in general, and the sort of thought process behind marketing stuff. It just seemed like a natural fit at the time. So yeah.
For me, I think finding social media jobs that came just because I was desperate for a job that wasn't in retail or hospitality once I'd left uni after a couple of years. And I remember looking up graphic design jobs, but the thing about pursuing graphic design is it's graphic design and something. Mm-hmm. And so then I had to come to terms with the fact that either you already are a graphic designer, but you have to do something else. So that's and UX design and marketing. So then I decided to pursue then marketing and social media sort of out of necessity. And then I learned later that I enjoy it better than graphic design anyway. So it's good.
Yeah. Are you all kind of glad that that's how things went, even though it wasn't expected? Now that you're in the position you are are you kind of thankful or grateful that that is the way it went?
Yeah.
So I think it's important, like a lot of people worry about, okay, what's going to be my next step, and they're trying to plan everything out constantly, and very often you just can't do that because something will pop up that you can enjoy far more than you expected, and then you realise, oh, actually this is really where I want my career to be going, and this is what I want to be doing, rather than that thing I spent the past 4 years at university planning on. It doesn't always go that way. My undergrad was criminology. What I'm doing right now definitely isn't criminology. So I think you can never really expect what is going to happen next, but it's also fantastic that it is like that too, because it just opens you up to so much more.
The job market's always changing. That's one thing. So, for instance, I've got friends from Northern Ireland who very similar did journalism and later on did communications or social media because they found that it was job security and it was going from say maternity leave to maternity leave filling in and having say 9 months and it's extremely stressful when you're trying to keep your keep all the things going and constantly looking for new jobs and hoping that this one you get to stay in it for longer. So I think sometimes it's just the harsh reality as well kind of takes you to where you're going to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing, sometimes it isn't really a choice, it is just you're forced into a situation that you then have to adapt to. But I think with these challenges, even though they're quite daunting at first, and it can be stressful, especially if you're like, okay, my contract is going to be up within the next month, I need to find the next thing to move on to. It's a really good way of building those skills and realising you can cope in those situations, and there will always be something else. It isn't going to be the be-all and end-all. Once that contract or that job ends, there's always something to kind of move on to. How did you first get into sort of digital and online work?
For me, I used to do I used to be in a band and I used to do their social media. Not very successfully at first. I would give it a go and I'd kind of I'd be aware of kind of trends and stuff like that. And I suppose that was the kind of first time I'd had any kind of exposure to doing it kind of thing. And then that kind of built up. You started to do more kind of when you're trying to sell t-shirts or whatever, you'd start to consider the digital marketing side of it a bit more. And then I think it wasn't until after I did my masters that I got actually any kind of sort of starting out. It was that kind of part time. I don't want to say internship, but it's kind of it was a very low paid kind of I was just happy to be there. And I think that was the thing, but it was well worth it. I was definitely being underpaid, but at the same time, I was doing another job at the same time, so luckily I could afford to do that. But that gave me my first kind of taste into doing it, and it wasn't perfect because their expectations were something, my expectations were something they'd never done anything like that before. So it was a bit kind of hiccup pickles kind of thing, but it was still a huge learning experience, and I think it just kind of gave you even if it doesn't need to be something that's pure, I don't know, what you thought it was going to be. You're kind of this is my career and this is what I'm going to go to. Doing something like that, I think just still gives you the confidence and speaking about yourself and selling yourself to an employer you really do want to go for. So I think stuff like that can be really important.
Yeah, 100%. It was a really beneficial sort of stepping stone for you to have that learning curve. And maybe it wasn't what you thought, it wasn't what they thought.
Yeah.
You both came out of it with something, and then you knew from then on. I think as well it builds the value of your work too. Like you said, when you're starting out and you think, George, you kind of mentioned earlier as well, especially in graphic design, pushing your own work can be quite a scary thing to do, and it's learning to value what you do and know the sort of the worth of that and the price of your time and your effort, especially if you are out there on your own and you're having to convey that to other people in a company. Definitely. What about yourself, Lucy? What was your kind of first piece of digital work or online work?
It was probably when I started at Young Enterprise Scotland, and it was just, this is your job now, you have to kind of learn it. I'd done little bits and pieces as a kind of voluntary thing for a couple of charities when I was at uni, but nothing, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of winging it, and it worked. But it was definitely kind of learning on the job sort of thing where I didn't have any real experience, so they kind of took a chance on me, and it worked.
And how did you find that, the sort of just learning by getting straight into it and doing it?
I think I I do quite well when I'm just kind of left to it and I just have to figure it out. I think if you prepare too much, I think you overthink it.
Yeah.
Whereas I do thrive under pressure.
Yeah,
and a little bit of chaos.
Yeah.
That definitely worked for me.
Completely. What about yourself? Yeah.
Well, I suppose the because I was always sort of making artwork or making my first like website to promote myself, but then when it came to social media, I think it was through work experience that was my first sort of on more of the social media side. So I did a lot of like email marketing and it was sort of nice because I was given the email marketing that the company was doing at first was horrible. They were just they're just plopping in images and putting like text beside it. And so it was so then basically I for once then I really paid attention to what was coming into my inbox. So all those sort of marketing emails from ASOS and Urban Outfitters and everything, I was no longer either just like, you know, put it into my junk or whatnot, but I was actually like looking at it and seeing how can I emulate this. And then of course when the sales started to go up, then that really motivated me then to go like each like week when I put the marketing email out, I was on like better and better and better.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's really got that drive and motivation
Yeah.
going for you. And I think, yeah, you mentioned a good point as well. It's to start paying attention to the things that you normally wouldn't, like those emails that you don't really want to look at from ASOS and places like that you're getting constantly, like this week we got 10% off for this or that. But looking at those and seeing the tactics they're using are very important because it clearly works. It's a massive organization. So it is good to pay attention to those little things around you that you don't often do. And I think a lot of the times when you don't realize marketing is everywhere, we're constantly consuming it. It influences us in pretty much everything we do. And to start tuning into that and paying attention means that we can really learn from it when it comes to starting up on your own and creating your own business and using those tactics kind of going forward. Did any of you ever have a mentor or coach or someone who sort of inspired you or taught you things along the way?
Yeah, so when I started, I was introduced to Annie Henry, who is a social media marketing kind of expert, and it was definitely more as when I started here, it was a mostly male organisation, so it was just to kind of give me someone to talk to that wasn't here, and she was brilliant for kind of boosting my confidence and being like, right, aye, you're winging it just now, but you're going to learn it, you're going to figure it out, and she was great for kind of introducing me and building my network across kind of other media marketers in Glasgow. So she was great, and I would definitely see that it helped me, and even just kind of boosting my confidence and kind of feeling better about myself as well, which is absolutely incredible. So I would definitely see if you've got the opportunity to get a mentor that it definitely works.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really good for that. Just even though I think often people think of mentors as being someone they can learn from, quite often it works the other way around too. And I think having someone who is a little bit older, has been in the game a little bit longer, has kind of come across a lot of the challenges that you're about to come across is really important, because not only can they be teaching you from what they've learned, but you're also bringing something fresh into it as well. And I think coming with new eyes and fresh perspective is what a lot of places often need.
Yeah, and it definitely works both ways. And I think there's a kind of, if someone says, oh, be a mentor, it's very like, you think it's very rigid and very set, but it can be whatever you want it to be. Sometimes ours would be really casual, we just meet up for coffee, have a chat, and that way you don't even realise that you're being helped until later on you're thinking this, you're like, oh, that was great. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be
You just come away with that positive feeling.
yeah,
Like, actually,
it can be so flexible as well. It's definitely you shape it to what it is you need, I think.
Yeah, completely. What about yourselves? Was there anyone sort of along the way that you thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I don't think it's spoke about enough, sometimes I feel, I see my friends who are younger and they had like parents who had like corporate jobs. They were very used to speaking with certain vernaculars and stuff like that, and speaking in like certain language and acting a certain way and stuff. And like I felt like when I started looking for jobs that I had, my parents would offer me like basic like kind of CV advice and stuff like that, but it wasn't like they weren't really in that world kind of thing. So like it was, I don't know, it was really scary, like kind of looking for jobs. for this kind of thing, for sort of journalism stuff before. So I think it's really, really good to have someone like that, even if they're closer to your age or something like that, even better, you know. There's my friend Nina, who Nina Rennie, she works for an agency called Thousand Heads, and she was, I met her doing this when I wrote for a vegan magazine in like, I don't know, 2016, 2017 maybe. And then so I worked with her doing the events on that and also the magazine part. But I hadn't really expressed interest in a digital marketing career, but I'd seen her career and I thought that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that I'd really like to do. It felt like something I might be good at as well, you know. We're very different people. She's I'm quite a chaotic kind of person, and she's very, very organised and just really razor sharp kind of thing. And I just find her a generally inspiring person, but also in that sense, like, she was really, really helpful and just kind of guided me towards where I wanted to be, like kind of helped me when I did interviews. She wrote me like a reference letter for uni and everything. So it was really nice, but it wasn't through like doing courses or jobs that we just met, because I'd kind of expressed interest in this magazine. I never thought I was going in that direction. It wasn't like a networking kind of thing, but like you kind of just meet people randomly, so you never know where these connections are going to pop up. But she's definitely been instrumental in getting me to my job now. So yeah. Cheers.
And for me, I think just lots of different people, and especially books as well. Like I think that if you're interested in getting into social media, one of the best things that you can do to maybe stand out in interviews as well is to just because social media changes so quickly, don't get an old book, get a book that was released last year or this year. And you know, usually it's done by some sort of marketing guru, but there's always something that you can glean from it. And then as well, I would just say, like, people like, let's say for instance, who's in my organisation, who's like a couple of steps above me, and I think it's good to seek out people that you want to be a bit like in the future. And then I think if you're looking for a mentor, like, I think that's a good way to find it.
I think that's definitely true about like getting stuff that's up to date. I think the good thing about social media is that because it's evolving so much, like the experts aren't just going to be like from like old textbooks and stuff like that. So from uni, I don't know, I find that a bit kind of like trudging through this stuff, but because it's just like it's happening right now, do you know what I mean? You're going to find people like there's so many great like marketing accounts on Instagram and stuff that will give you really, really good advice and kind of give you like a lot of perspective and kind of help you kind of immerse yourself in that world, even if you don't necessarily have a career in it just yet. You know what I'm saying? So
because we always talk about like the algorithm and everything, but it's constantly evolving. So back in the day, it used to be all about follower count and everything, and then, you know, like I've worked places with tens of thousands of followers, and you post something and you get 3 likes, and you're just like, okay, so
somebody's buying followers.
Exactly. And so it's things like that. Then, like, again, maybe a big follower account 5-6 years ago was really important, and so it's constantly evolving. So definitely it's something will always pop up. I don't think it'll ever get boring.
I know, I think that's the thing, trying to explain like engagement is actually so much more important. Like, I think especially if someone's not really in social media, or they maybe hired you to do their social media, and they're like, why aren't our followers going up? And they're like, because we've got to build all this other stuff, got to build the world of your brand, essentially, do you know what I mean, before we can really build just followers and stuff. You know, it's great to have them, but you know.
I mean, that kind of leads us on to the next little bit I wanted to ask you guys about, and that was, are there any content creators or marketing campaigns that have inspired you and you thought, I really love that, I kind of want to be more like that?
None that are relevant to what I do. So I follow a lot of kind of fashion brands, a lot of the kind of campaigns you see and you're like, that looks incredible, like, and it does draw you in, but it's not really relevant to what I do, but you can appreciate what they've done and how well it, just how visually great it is. But I think, like what Georgina was saying, a lot of the accounts that kind of break down marketing for you, because unless it is your full-time job, you're never going to keep on top of what's changing and what's happening constantly. So if there's accounts that can give me a wee kind of cheat sheet, I appreciate that.
What about yourself?
It
comes by
Rue from Pure Gals Social. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's someone who I think is really fantastic. And I remember kind of like when I was doing my course, I was looking for people to interview for it, and someone had recommended her. And her account, I think it maybe had like 2,000 followers at that point. But she seemed so switched on, and she'd done really, really well to build this personal brand. Like even just down to the facial expressions she made. Like she was always on camera in them. And I'm not saying you need to always be on camera to be successful in marketing and stuff, but our clothes were always really simple. She always wore these really colourful dungarees, like massive specs, like really memorable person. But the work she was doing, she was putting across this really, really helpful information as well. And she started out like, as I say, I think it maybe had like a couple of K followers when I first kind of reached out to her, and then she's maybe got about 60 odd, and that was like a couple of years ago. So she's really like, in terms of like putting your money where your mouth is, I think she's a great example of someone who can really walk the walk when it comes to that. So I'd definitely check her out. But I think that is a part of it. Like it's, you get people who, there's lots of Instagram kids, I'm sure we've seen them, where it's just like kind of giving you social media updates, and that's great. But like I think if you can do it in a personal, like memorable way, and apply that to maybe wherever you work, whether you're working for an agency or in-house, I think stuff like that's really, really important to kind of make you stand out, because like if people see something, that's gonna stick with them more than any stat would.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. I think it is you remember 80% of what you see compared to what you hear or told or anything. So the visuals of something do really matter, and it's kind of the great thing about the online world, and the worst thing about the online world is it is constantly evolving and changing. It's probably going to be your hardest challenge, is to keep up with that and stay relevant and face the constant change that's happening. But it also allows you to constantly think creatively and come up with different ways to approach something. And it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's just that one little thing, like you said. It's just seeing that person on the screen, big glasses, being memorable, something that makes you stand out that little bit, works so much compared to doing things the way they have been done for maybe the past couple of months.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but I think people can get too bogged down in the details of what's the next trend, what's the next update going to be, but really it comes back to that core principle of, like, as a memorable, who, like, are they going to remember who you are specifically? And I think the best people on LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever, it's because you keep the repetitive nature of it, and it takes, that's always going to be a true principle of marketing, I think. But yeah,
completely. So when you guys first sort of got started out, and whether that was becoming an entrepreneur or just into the job you're in now, what would you say were the main challenges you came across, or the things that sort of held you back a little bit when you first went into it?
So I think for me, it was kind of identifying our audience. So here I cover 4 brands, and each brand has a pretty different target. So whether it's college students, primary students, teachers, parents, or partners, trying to tailor the content for each brand, and then trying to figure out, right, well, on this platform, this is who this is for. So that was a lot of work trying to break that down, and it's something that kind of continually changes because the age ranges change on our further education programme, and again with different platforms coming in and out of use, you have to kind of continually revise it. But that's definitely the biggest challenge for us, and it still is a challenge because whatever I'm putting out on Twitter for teachers, I can't just recycle that and put it on Facebook, because that's not how it works. People are engaging in different ways, and that's my main challenge really here, is just trying to reach the right people.
And how did you kind of work out who were the right people and how to do that now that you've been in it a little bit? And obviously that is a big range of people. You're going from really every age range out there. So how did you sort of break that down and realise who that target audience?
So I can't take credit for it. It was Megan that works in my team. She took every single programme and every brand and created like a kind of a customer profile. So she's analysed the kind of age range, what their interests are, where they're likely to be online, and how they would be receptive to what we were putting out. So she's done a lot of work in that. So well done, Megan.
What about you guys? What was sort of main challenges?
Well, I mean, for me, it's mainly so for my own business. It's so I know what to do, but it's for a lot of people who with their own business, it's actually doing it is the hard bit. It's getting the time and the motivation. And so because I'm also making, printing, and then, you know, putting it up for putting my products up online for sale and everything, and trying to like keep it updated, then so many things like go to the wayside. So it's like, for instance, I know that I should be consistent and just like doing it over and over again, and sort of trying to repeat some of the things. I know that you should be, when you're on social media and hoping for engagement, you're sort of like, you have to maybe, like, if you're just selling something, nobody wants to be sold to. That's like the hardest part, because nobody wants to buy, like, almost every advert that you get on TikTok, you swipe because you don't care about them going, oh, look at this pencil case. You're just like, go away.
Yeah.
So I think that's the tough part, because like you were saying, like, people, I think, want to be either informed or entertained, or it's just back to that. So yeah, for me the challenge is knowing what to do, but actually getting around to doing it. That's the problem.
There's never enough time in the day.
Yeah, I can agree, to be honest. Like, I do think it's trying to do the sale, but just kind of do it in artful ways. I think people really need to, I mean, it depends on the brand really, but say it's like a customer service brand, like if you're try to like sell the service aspect of it, you're going to want people to buy in to the people behind it, kind of thing. So it's great to have an advert for what you do, but like who are they actually going to be speaking to, or something like that. Who are they actually going to be getting in touch with? Make it seem like, oh, that's exciting because I recognize them. They feel like someone that's familiar to me, like a friend almost, and humanize it a bit. I think that's the biggest thing. Like it, as you said there, like it's kind of really, I don't know, when you see someone that's doing obviously or just an advert, you're kind of like, oh, disgusting, like, then you just realise like contempt for it, you're like, like, whereas if someone's kind of like, I don't know, drawing you in with a wee bit of chat or something, then it's kind of, it just feels like, I don't know, it's a difference between, like a good person that's kind of doing like a brand collaboration on an influencer or something like that, a bad one, kind of thing. If they're, I don't know, let's just say the elements of that, and then they're talking about like hair loss treatment or something like that. Just, like they're totally two different words. You're like, what? Where's this coming from? Whereas it's got to feel connected. It's got to feel like believable, and I think that's a big part of it. It's kind of like actually making it feel human, like, which is always a challenge. And I think it's a very underrated part. It's always about that you have to convince clients. All of it is like needs to be all these things, and then naturally the sales will come.
People want to see people. They don't want to see a corporation. They don't want to feel like they're just being targeted purely for those sales of a product. Like, people will believe in stories, and I think storytelling is a huge part of getting a business out there and getting people to feel a part of it, and like it is something they actually want to give their money to, and they want to buy into this because it feels, like you said, familiar to them and like someone they know rather than its own entity, like out with everything else. So we talked a little bit about engagement before, and obviously the issues that come along with getting engagement. Like you said, you can have tens of thousands of followers and then get 3 likes on a post. Do you have any top tips for getting engagement on social media platforms? Say if we were to look at Instagram, for example, which I think a lot of people starting up tends to begin with, and that's where they tend to showcase their work or their services. Is there any sort of top tips you would have to get people onto that page or get that engagement kind of going?
Well, I can start this one. I think that especially when you're starting, it's less about quantity and more about the quality of the people who are following you, and also take advantage of the people that you already know in real life as well, and people that want to support you, because that's usually the first call, and those people who know you and see your post. And also, like, so for instance, Instagram, usually your thing will come up anyway, and you'll be able to sort of promote your business on your personal account that, again, people already follow you, so they're much more likely to talk about your brand. And so I would say start small with real people who actually care about you and your brand.
I think for us, it's really analysing what you're already doing and figuring out what works. So we spend a lot of time doing that and figuring out that. So on LinkedIn, our recruitment stuff always goes really well. So really talking about the recruitment and talking about the people really engages people. They come back and they keep engaging because we see people, like, if we put a recruitment post and they'll be tagging their pals saying, oh, there's a job going, and we're like, what's picking? So just, and it kind of comes back again to your target. So once you know who your target is and you figure out what they're enjoying, they will keep coming back and keep engaging, and you're not then shouting into the void about something that no one's that interested in. But if you really kind of break it down, you figure out exactly what they're following you for, that really helps with the engagement in subsequent posts.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think consistency in terms of in every sense, like whether it's consistency of, you know, posting, like, you know, people come to expect it. Depends what you're doing, like whether it's Instagram, it could be YouTube, you know, people subconsciously do come to expect certain times for things we post, whether it's podcasts, YouTube, TikToks and what have you. People want to see your content regularly, but also like in terms of like the visuals that you're using, whether it's like you're quite graphics heavy or you're more photo heavy, or there's certain people that people get used to seeing. I think all these things like breed familiarity with your product before a sale has even been made. It's kind of like you're saying, like, it's, you know, when you see a brand too, you're like, oh, it's so and so that I recognise, and they're the one. You know, there's a coffee brand I really like, Dark Arts Coffee, and it's always the same people kind of cropping up in the photos, videos, and what have you. And I think just seeing those familiar faces kind of makes you go, I want to invest in that brand, because I like those people. They seem fun. They seem like they're good. Like, it's good coffee, but it's the same as a lot of them. Like, there's lots of good coffee, but that I think is there. But there's for me, I think it's so blind-blowing, obviously, that if this comes across to you guys as well, like when you see a brand, you can feel they're kind of going for lots of different tones. I've seen one account that they really like and they're doing like a really graphics heavy post, and then they're seeing something else and they're wanting to kind of emulate that a lot more. And I think when someone's trying to, when you're constantly grasping to chase a trend and chase what's kind of popular, that's not, I don't think that's ever really going to be effective. It never seems to really work for people. So I think whatever you do, like once you're confident it's decent and you're getting some good engagement on it, I mean, obviously if something's not working, don't just keep doing it, you know. But it's something, if you feel like you've got a kind of spark with something and you feel like you're kind of starting to get somewhere, I think just keeping things in that vein, and kind of, whether it's the same, like people just, whether it's people, you know, even in a video and they just the way they say hello or something like that, like it becomes familiar to you, especially on a platform like TikTok, where the first second or whatever is the most important part of it, kind of thing, in terms of the lead in. I think stuff like that's great. So I think be aware of those things when you're posting, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's insane when you think about really how important consistency is, especially when you see a symbol now, like everyone knows Nike or McDonald's or whatever, like straight away as soon as you see it, you know that brand, you know what it represents, you know what you're getting. And it's, I think, keeping that consistency of knowing who you are and what your brand is and how you can convey that to other people, and matching then your social media presence with your website and how you are everywhere online. Really, it all has to be consistent and matched. Nobody wants to go into an Instagram page and click on a link and then it takes them to a website that looks totally different, and then they're like, oh, is this a bit dodgy, like what's going on here? You want to know straight away that this is where you're meant to be and this is how it's supposed to be, and you get the brand from the get-go, and that the logo is representative of what they're doing, and the name and every post that goes on there has that similar theme, that it feels like you're again following that story and it's not a totally different brand every other day that you're looking at. And what would you recommend for those that are out there looking to develop their marketing skills and they're just getting into the game? It could be something small, like even something on the computer, like a little trick you learned that you're like, oh, that made that way easier. Or
just Canva in general, everyone saves my life. Like, you can do everything on it. I love it. As much as there's so really like flash software, it's like there's nothing you can't do.
Can I explain a little bit more about what Canva is in case?
Yeah, so Canva is a kind of an online kind of graphics site.
It's basically like Photoshop, but online, and it's free. and it also has loads of templates as well.
Yeah.
So you could know nothing about graphic design, but you say, I like that template and it's free. Click on it,
Yeah.
put your text into it, and that's it.
Thing, then yeah, you change your font around, mess with the colors, sort of do what fits you. And that's the thing, I think, especially when people are starting out and they're looking for a logo and they're like, I'm not a creative person in that way, I don't have the artistic skills to draw something. They're like, how am I going to do this? Canva is fantastic for that, because you can just go on, there's billions of templates up there, you can change it around, you can sort of mess with it a little bit, and it's so accessible and easy. It's not like
That's the thing.
overwhelming.
Yeah, I think if you're someone who's not particularly gifted in that way, I definitely include myself in that number of people who just, I don't like, I can imagine visuals, but I can't really do them. Like something like Canva can be really great if you're communicating with a designer or something like that. Like even just getting this is roughly what I'm thinking. Can you take this to kind of launch an idea for what I want to do? And I think that's what makes it so great. It's giving you that kind of like, I don't know, just that wee boost of confidence to kind of put things on page.
And even as a designer, so as soon as I did marketing, I feel like Canva's almost like the industry standard for marketing and communications, because, you know, I would have less than a day to make, you know, the month's posts for that, you know. So to make 30 posts in about 3 hours, you're not going to do that in Photoshop. And also with Canva, you can duplicate each one. So you can have like on one file just all the posts for that month.
I think that's a really handy trick to know though, because I think a lot of people are like, it's the initial thought of how much you have to do, and that can be so overwhelming and like, oh my god, how am I going to create all this stuff, how am I going to get it out, how am I going to remember to do it, like, you know, every Tuesday I need to post this, every Wednesday I need to post this, you know. And it's that consistency again, that it's like, how will I ever keep up with that amount of work that I know is coming?
Totally. Can I encourage you to be a much more organised person than you might otherwise?
Yeah.
Because it can be really overwhelming, especially if you're, you know, whether you're doing one client, multiple clients, multiple platforms. You know, there's so many different bits to consider, and all the little differences in copy that you might do, all different like the formatting for different platforms as well.
Yeah.
So there's loads to consider, and I think having stuff like that can be absolutely valuable for sure.
If you're working for yourself as well, I think so many people when they start their own business are like, oh, I'll need to get somebody to do my logo, and it's like, no, don't put any more money than you need to into your company. So just make the logo by yourself. And then, you know, once you get to the point of being really, really big, that's the only time you might need to reach out to somebody to get a logo done properly. Mm-hmm. But other than that, like, you know, just use Canva. Just use Canva for anything. Don't be paying anybody with money that you don't have.
Completely. Yeah, that's the thing is, being an entrepreneur, you're often kind of forced to learn new skills, even if it's not something you really thought was your kind of thing before. But yeah, there's no point in continually trying to source these people to do all these different things for you. Thinking, okay, well, I need to get a web designer, I need to get a content creator, I need to get all of these, a graphic designer for this, that, and the other thing. Give it a go. It doesn't have to be the most perfect thing in the world. Like I said, there's a billion templates out there when it comes to logos on Canva as well. Find something that you kind of like, that works for now, that's representative of what you are, what the company is, and then, as you said, Georgina, in a year's time, if you're there, then if you're going to do that, go for it. Do something really cool and spice it up a little bit. But for now, it doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be clear who you are and what you're doing. Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, the use of words is so important, and it always makes me think of Gillette back in like the 1920s, started to go bankrupt, and they thought, okay, well, we need to start marketing this to women, because, you know, guys, it was fashionable for them to have beards and mustaches, and they're like, nobody's using our product anymore, we really have to get people buying this product. So they're like, okay, we'll target women. And the wording they used, they didn't want to use shave, because then it seemed too masculine to tell women to shave. So they went for refinement and smooth. And it is incredible how just this switch of words suddenly made that a feminine product for what was very much a masculine product at that time. So it is, you do have to pay attention to the wording you're using and the way you're conveying things, and what those products are to who.
Yeah, I think whether it's like a kind of, whether it's gendered language, I think, or it's for accessibility reasons as well. Like there's all sorts of reasons why I kind of think that you don't need to have really flowery language to be a good. I don't think that makes it good at all. It's really uncomfortable when someone's doing that. Like, that scene in Friends where he's like, he's thesaurus, the letter that was written, it's kind of all that kind of stuff. Like, it reminds me of that. And I think whatever you're saying, you should, like, the most simple way you can say it, because I think that can be really off-putting to some people.
Yeah.
And most people you're right towards probably. So I think kind of making what you're saying is comfortable and experience for as many people as possible is really, really important. Unless you're kind of going for, I don't know, like a high-end perfume brand. But even then, it's the difference between saying like scent and smell. That was something that was always, when I worked in retail, I was always drilled into me, stop saying smell. Like, it sounds really weird. It doesn't sound appealing. Like, just smell like it. So stuff like that. Like,
And also, like, when you think about, so when you're especially writing, a big part, say, could be doing the blog posts on your website, and then you're meant to be always using your keywords, because then that helps you get up higher in Google. Mm-hmm. And so if you Googled what's that smell, like, so I suppose that was also not helping.
Yeah, you want to come up in the right search results.
100%. Yeah, it's all with SEO. That's right.
So looking back on everything you kind of learned so far and the things that you've come across and challenges you've had, is there anything you would have done differently at any point?
I could start. Well, I think instead of, after I'd finished uni and I was doing like I was just sort of like like I would work and then I'd travel and then I'd be skint and then I'd work and then I'd travel. And so I just didn't believe in myself at all in regards to like my ability to be able to be an illustrator or anything like that. And so yeah, I remember just not feeling great about my career, and I just wish that I would have immediately just forced myself to like go out and looked at the jobs, just go on a job search. And when you see something, you'd be like, you know what, I think I would like that job, and then look at what they need, and then you can see, well, this is what I need to do to get to that point. So yeah, I think I would have, instead of those couple of years just like going about the place with not much like thought, then I just would have then went straight into trying to do social media or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think trying these things is the biggest thing. I'd love to. Part of me wants to sit here and say, "Oh no, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't have." That where I am, and it all kind of worked out the way I wanted it to. I had absolutely no plan. I don't consider myself a career-driven person, really. It just kind of ended up, things kind of fell the way they fell. But like, and you meet people that will help you in unexpected ways along the way. But yeah, part of me does kind of, wish that I'd kind of just, there's certain things that where, I wouldn't call it a regret, but like there's certain things where you just kind of go, oh, you probably could have got that, like if you just, got out your own head a little bit. I think getting the confidence to kind of go and try these things, like whether it's interviews or something like that, like even failing at an interview, not failing, but like, kind of not going the way you wanted to, not getting a job essentially, like whatever that might mean, I think just experiencing speaking to people like that, I think is hugely beneficial, especially if you're not used to that kind of that kind of chat from people. So I think just try stuff. I really think just try new things, put yourself in uncomfortable positions, like make yourself, don't be complacent. I think is the only thing I would really
and I think that's the thing, like nobody ever wants to go out of that comfort zone. Like it feels horrible for everyone, but as soon as you do, you learn something. Even if it's not the best experience in the world, that you will learn something from it. And it might be like, maybe you didn't get that job that you went in for, but you will come out having that experience of going for something like that. And I think it also gives you that little bit more of a drive too, that you're like, okay, but it didn't happen that time, but now I know what to expect in that, and next time I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna get it, and it kind of just really pushes you to do that.
Yeah, it's totally fine to go out of videos you go, not my best work. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't amazing, but I think it kind of shows you what not to do, and then
Yeah,
you just can develop from there.
I think probably just trying not to stretch yourself too thin and be all things to all people. I think not immediately doing absolutely everything on every single platform. I think going taking it a bit more slowly, kind of understanding each one first. Because I've been guilty of that, where you're going full tilt for work, you're going full tilt for your freelance stuff, and then at the end you're like just totally overwhelmed, and you've got no time to do anything else because you've overcommitted to clients. You're doing voluntary stuff, and then you're just like, whoa. So I think being able to kind of take it slowly and build it up over time to understand actually, right, that's where my limit is, and if I go any more, it's going to be too much for me. So I think I've been better kind of, in hindsight, I'm better now at saying, right, actually, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And just understanding your limits. I think that's
Completely, yeah. And I think it's finding that balance between what you were saying, Josh, of going and taking the opportunity when it's there and putting yourself out into that position, but also not feeling like you constantly have to say yes to everything all of the time, or you're not going to make it, and you're not going to, maybe you'll miss out, and it's the fear of not doing it, but also doing it far too much, and you really need to find that happy medium of actually, okay, I can cope with this amount of work in a week, but if I take on one more event or one more client, then I'm going to push it too far, and you never want what you're doing to feel miserable. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are starting out and creating their online presence?
I think just immersing yourself in as much of it as you can. Like, I'm chronically online. Like, I spend my entire life on Instagram, and I think just consume as much of it, and then you can start weeding out the stuff that you think, actually, like, that's good, that's guff, and take bits from it. Like, don't plagiarise it, but take the bits that you think would benefit you. And I think just really understand what it is you're trying to do before you start, in case you start and you think, well, actually, no, that's not what I'm made to do, and you have to kind of try and backtrack, and then kind of preparing as much as possible.
100%. Yeah, I think that immerse yourself is the number one thing you can do in anything like that, I think. And I think that helps you build. There was a great post that I seen years ago it's totally stuck with me. Like, something that makes good creative versus bad creative is taste, and it comes down to, like, you can build taste by seeing stuff that you don't think is very good, stuff that is very good. You can you've got a full spectrum of experience and knowledge of that area, and that, I mean, especially when you work in marketing and you're kind of like, I don't know, you're probably going into subject matters that you might not actually know that much about, like, especially as an agency employee, that definitely I see all the time with stuff that it's almost being able to take that view of things and kind of go, okay, here's what doesn't work, here's what does work, and that world, and it's taken. I remember it was like trying to find that balance between, like, timelessness and timeliness kind of thing, and I think that was just like, yeah, that's it. That's what makes something great. It's like, you can chase trends till you're blue in the face, or you can, totally go down your own route with something, but ultimately the thing that brings something together is kind of like being aware of both those worlds, and just being totally surrounded by it, and have a really well-rounded understanding of whatever industry you're in, really. I think just kind of going for it, like, that is the thing, like, get out your own way and kind of just going, okay, this is a little embarrassing, but it's my first try. I just need to be the be all end of, but that implies that absolutely everything. The first post show is not really good, the first anything you do is not going to be the best in the world, but and then if you keep doing it, so just do it. I think that sums it up.
Thanks,
Nailed it.
No, I mean, thank you guys so much for coming to talk today. I think it's been a really good conversation. I think we've covered a lot, and for anyone watching or listening, the main message is just go and do it.